What does it mean in English? Tzimtzum is not kipshuta. When you speak about the infinite withdrawing itself in order to create space for a finite universe, which needs finite energy in order to validate it and make it exist on a level of gvul, on a level of finiteness, never think that that's detached from the Ein Sof. On the contrary, real Ein Sof, real infinity, can be more finite than finite, because it's truly infinite. If it's truly infinite, it can express itself in every conceivable way, in infinity and also in finiteness. So when I'm looking at the finite, the question is what I'm seeing. Am I seeing finite? But if I could cleanse my perception and trace it back to a deeper place, what am I seeing? I'm seeing infinity. It's just infinity the way it's packaged or manifested through the finite. But it's not truly just finite divorced from infinity. When you say Tzimtzum is not kipshuta, it means that in the presence of the world, it's like pre-Tzimtzum. The whole Ein Sof and the whole Earth of Ein Sof. The shaila is only what eyes, what kalim, what vessels, what instruments I'm using to define reality. But each reality can be traced back to its truth, which is infinity. This is not a statement just about infinity and finite. It translates literally into every level of experience. I'll just tell you one. It's about engagement with the world or disengagement from the world. The Maggid of Mezrich, there was a Yid, his name was Rabbi Kalisker. Rabbi Kalisker was a student of the Vilna Gaon. He was a big Gaon. He heard a word from the Mezrich Maggid, and he became a Chassid. What was the word from the Mezrich Maggid? One word. Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. What's Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha? We say it every morning before Krishna. What's Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha? Literally, it means the whole earth is filled with your acquisitions from the word kinyan. In other words, it's like you'll say, the whole Fifth Avenue belongs to him, right? All the newspapers belong to him. The whole world was bought by God, is acquired by Hashem, because it's his. Doesn't belong. Hashem Artzim Loya. Mala, the ganze Welt is kinyanech, it's your kinyan, it's koine shemayim v'aretz. You own it, you create it, it's your acquisition. Mala, it's kinyanech, the Siyod of Yiddishkeit, Hashem Artzim Loya. I didn't make this world, he made it, it's his world. The Maggid said, Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. He said in Yiddish, the ganze Welt, jede Nekude in Welt, Mala, the ganze Welt is full mit Sachen, durch welche ich kenn dir koine sein. The whole world is filled with opportunities to acquire you. Mala, there's no Nekuda in the world through which you can't acquire the Rebbeinu Shalom. You're holding a raisin, you can acquire Hashem. You're having an emotion, you can acquire Hashem. The Avram Kalisker was a serious Jew. What's the Nekuda? What is he saying? The Pashtus Olam Haza is a dark world. It's a prusdorsh. It's a Traklin. Get through the corridor, past the Nisyonis and get to the real world. In Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta, it's the exact opposite. In every Nekuda, there's Ein Sof. So there's no disengagement, there's engagement. In simple words, you're not depressed about the world. You celebrate life. You celebrate. Sometimes Yiddishkeit can be associated with a little sadness, with a little depression. That's why you'll see in Teres Baal Shem there's such an emphasis on Simcha and Eslavos. Why? So people think it's because the Baal Shem Tov, he was for the ADHDs. It wasn't for intellectual giants. Intellectual giants could sit on a Gemara all day for 95 years. Baal Shem Tov understood the masses, they need action. So how do you make action? So you make a tish, you bring sprinkle cake, mezakt alechayim, metanst. But the elite of Judaism, of course, looks down at these farmers who just need entertainment, social entertainment. Even Chassidim think that, a lot of them. When I hear people say it or read it, I could cry. Because the Baal Shem Tov had 60 of his closest students who were the Geoinim of the generation. Many of them were Av Bezdins. They were top Geoinim. You take a person like the Baal Tanya, yeah? The Rakachava said, the Rambam, after the Tanoim and Amirayim, the Rakachava said, the Rambam can't learn it, and the Alter Rebbe can't learn it. The Rakachava Gaon was very sharp. He says, the Rambam knew how to learn, and the Alter Rebbe knew how to learn. You had the Mezritcher Magid himself was a Gaon and told us Yaakov Yosef, Reb Chaim HaKohen Rappaport, the Lubavitcher was an Av Bezdin of huge communities. So these Gaonim who sat and learned their whole life, what were they attracted to? Some sponge cake, herring, a few people dancing around the table, a shalashudas, a boring shalashudas that's dark. But it's exactly what the Tzimtzum did. You could see something from a chitzoniistic perspective. You don't see the pnimis. I just realized the metaphor I'm giving, it brings out the point. You could look at a world, and you could see one world. You could look at the same world, and the same reality is a different reality. The question is your perception, your perspective. Malad it's kinyanecha. The idea of the simcha was a practical, emotional consequence of a Weltanschauung, of a world in which the Tzimtzum was just an opportunity. It wasn't a concealment. It was a relationship through experience, through the world, not a real concealment, an obstruction. If you took in the emotional world, till today in the Jewish world, including in the Orthodox world, you'll have two different streams of thought. One stream of thought is that, emotions are messy. A much better way of living is just saying, God Zulatayv, everything is good, and accept it, and be a soldier, and put one foot ahead of another foot, and forge ahead, and don't go to certain places. It's complicated, it's messy, it's dysfunctional. Don't get so emotional, don't feel everything. And if you can amputate part of your heart, is noch besser. If you could repress it or suppress it, we'll go for that. The main thing is avodas Hashem. You serve Hashem. You're a good person. You follow Shulchan Aruch, and there's certain, and they're called Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim. There's another approach, and the other approach is no. You have to process your emotions, and you have to experience them, and you have to let them flow through you. And you need to make space for them, and you need to have compassion for them. And there's a lot of frustration, a lot of resentment, and a lot of negativity, and a lot of toxicity, and many wounds, and a lot of loneliness, and a lot of shame, and a lot of pain. And the truth is, I don't know if we could use this word, but in a way, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. There's a deep intelligence here, when we become judgmental and everybody of this generation is wrong, and we know everything, it's very immature. My point is, these things are very, very complex. What we're learning here is, in Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutai, a very profound idea, that the whole polarization of it doesn't begin. Essentially, both attitudes come from Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutai. One puts God here, and they run there, and one puts God here and they run there. It's the same. The two extremes are very close. Fundamentalists always understand each other. You know what I mean? The two extremes are close to each other because they get stuck in a certain extreme. What's the idea of Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutai? You are a finite consciousness having a finite experience. And therefore it means you never have to be afraid of any experience. You never have to be intimidated by any experience, because even the process of the finite experience, you are infinite consciousness. So therefore you never have to be afraid of engagement. You never have to be afraid practically of your emotions. You never have to be afraid of feeling your emotions, of processing your emotions, of going into those tunnels that seem so dark, because you're never a finite, miserable, mortal, frail, weak creature. You're not. And that very moment, you are infinite consciousness. If you're a chelik elikam imal, and Tzimtzum is not kipshutai, so you can go into the place, you can go into every place fully, what he calls here bihislapshus. You could be present, not like a Monopoly game, where you're detached. You don't have to shut down. And it means there's a real relationship. In simple terms, it means when you're experiencing sadness, right? What is happening at that moment? You're experiencing sadness. One level is, You're a little miserable creature, divorced from the big picture. You don't see anything. So you're sad, you're lonely, you're in pain. You're feeling this pain, you're feeling this loneliness, you're feeling this sadness. So one view says, Hashem is in heaven. Why don't you go to heaven? You're not sad. When people tell you how you're supposed to feel? Anybody ever told you how you're supposed to feel? You have to be besimcha. Okay, I'm besimcha. Everything is perfect. You pinch your cheeks, it's rosy, you're besimcha. Hashem is there. That's where truth is. Just daven. You want to say Tillim, say Tillim. In other words, you disengage someone. And then another one says, no, tell me more. Tell me more. What do you guys say? Tell me more, yeah? Tell me more. Let's get more into the sadness. And that's like, Hashem, bye. I'll be back for mincha. But I really got to deal with my emotions now. Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei means your experience of sadness is God's experience of sadness. Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei was said about the whole world, not just about Jews. You don't say in Borough Park, in Lakewood, and in Muncie, Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei. The moment you go into Manhattan and Los Angeles, yeah, over there, Tzimtzum kipshutei. The reason the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent Shluchim to every corner of the world is one reason, because Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei. This is what allows my experience of agony not to turn me into the loneliest person in the world. Because what this means is, if Tzimtzum is not kipshutai, that it's infinite consciousness going through a very finite journey, so I can really be present in that journey. I can really, really feel it. And not only am I not divorced from Hashem, but this very, very experience, you can ultimately find the full truth and glory of existence in it. If I have the courage to remain focused and allow myself to experience it in its full totality, which is really Ein Sof. And therefore it's going to bring me much closer to myself, to people, to Hashem, to reality. On the contrary, it's going to allow me to bring the infinite light into the darkest places of existence, which is called Dira B'Tachtayim. We all know that there is depression, and there's suicide, and there's overdose, and there's despair, where a person becomes paralyzed. What is that really? It's complete. I'm completely in isolation. I'm really in isolation. The devastating thing in trauma is not the experience. It's the isolation. The child who was molested, even by his father, and has a mother to come to and embrace him, is in a different space. It doesn't take away the pain of life. Unfortunately, till the ultimate tikkun and the gula, life is filled with pain. And people are hurt, we know that. The discussion here is how I process it. Ultimately, Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei means, at the core of this encounter and experience, there's infinite light, there's infinite love. Now, that can sound very, love. But that's exactly not the point. Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutei doesn't mean the world is fake. It means the real world, in its authentic manifestations, the gvul is bli gvul. So therefore, I ought to know, it behooves me to know, that as I'm entering and I'm walking through the corridors of life, as I'm hiking through the trail of life, who's hiking through the trail of life? If I'm infinite light, if I'm a chelik lekamimal, and literally an ambassador, shluchai shel adam kamoisei, and look at the Torah Vayikra, what the Rebbe says, every neshama is shluchai shel adam kamoisei mamash. Like we always say, an ambassador of Hashem. It's divinity. It's Ein Sof. So it's not like there's the world of Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim. Be a soldier of Hashem. Be an Erlich Yid. Be a Fruma Yid. I don't care how you feel. You shouldn't care. Or the other way is like, I had enough of religion, I got to heal. Which a lot of people feel. I had enough of religion, I got to heal. Give me time to heal. Maybe I'll come back when I'm older. I got to heal. some people in this room know very well, you felt that your path of healing came at the expense of Judaism, because Judaism, in your mind, meant the antithesis of healing. It just meant fit into the community, give your father nachas, give your Zayda more nachas, give your elder Zayda nachas. If not, Hitler is going to win, and call me for the mitzvah tanz. That's it. I don't want to hear it. Just call me for the mitzvah tanz. 1 a.m, I'll be available for the mitzvah tanz. I want nachas. And this is not negative. Don't worry, the Olam Haba that you have in store is unbelievable. The Chiddush of Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshuta is, to use the lashon of this Maimonides, the went into the Keli. The Keli is very vulnerable. The Keli is finite, so to speak. God became finite, but God becoming finite doesn't mean that He's not God. And that means that you who are an expression of the finiteness of Hashem, what are you? You ain't safe. So it means, in my sadness, there is a relationship, and a deep relationship, and an authentic relationship with the essence itself, with Hashem Himself. It's not a fake relationship. We know that we exist because the Tzimtzum is real. When I'm sad, I am sad. So Chassidus comes back to that truth. It's real, but it's not just real. It's as real as it gets. In many ways, your emotions become much more real than any other way, because they're real not just because you're a Nebuch case and you're a vulnerable small person. They're real because Hashem is real. So it gives it a validity and a legitimacy, and no need to disengage and cut it off and be afraid of it. I can be fully present in life with everything that life brings, all the joys and all the disappointments, all the ecstasy and all the frustration, all the moments of exhilaration and intimacy, and the moments of separateness and anguish, all the moments of delight and the moments of pain. I could be fully inside present, and yet, instead of being destroyed and devoured and disintegrated, I actually become much closer to everything. I become much closer to truth. Why? Because that very experience is, and I who is in that experience, it's essentially Ein Sof. And therefore, as affected as you are, you're also completely unaffected. One of the most powerful things of this Maimon is that Alter Rebbe takes the philosophical immunity of God, Goli v'yadua, nothing touches him. And he said, really? If nothing touches him, you know what that means? That means nothing touches you. Nothing touches me? Really? Nothing touches me? You know what happened to me? Why am I a basket case? Why am I having anxiety for 40 years? Why am I self-conscious for 35 years? Nothing touches me. Really? Nothing touches me. So look what do people do? So they'll do, nothing really touches you. It's just the Yitzhara. That's always some kipshut. Like, just go, detach. And the other one is, yeah, you are a basket case. You really messed up. and I could really wallow in that, and there's a lot of despair in that. Here, I'm fully present. Of course something touched me, and it redefined me. But who am I? I'm Ein Sof. So how did it really redefine me? It redefined me in the sense that it made me much more Ein Sof. It made me more infinite, because the more the infinite expresses itself in finiteness, the more its infinity comes out. MS? You hear what I'm saying? So this very experience that destroyed you really didn't touch you in the slightest, in the negative. On the contrary, it only brought out your infinite light. So who's right? And they're both very real. If I can only experience the world from the perspective of Tzimtzum, which is real. It's real. I just got a punch in my belly. That hurts. I'm not infinite, sorry. I was bullied as a child. What about somebody who was abused as a child? What about somebody who was abused for 10 years of their life as a child? To say they weren't affected is the most cruel thing, right? Say, just move on, just move. You know when people say just move on? Anybody ever told that to you? Just move on. Shut your mouth and move on. So to be able to be fully present, and yet in your full presence, what is present? I just want you to hear. What is present in your full presence? Tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta means we're not afraid of anything. Because every situation, in its deepest core, is pure dveikus with Ein Sof. Because that's who you are. So you know everything in an engaged way where you're completely affected by it, and at the same time, it's gali v'yadua. And both are true. And don't try to pit one against the other. Because pitting against one the other causes people to detach from the real truth. But the word of Tzimtzum is, don't minimize existence. Existence is authentic. The word of Tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta is, it's as authentic as Hashem himself. Came the Baal HaTanya and said, Tzimtzum is shaloi kipshuta. So there's a relationship with Hashem himself. And in every moment, and in every experience, and in every situation. So it's a different simcha. It's not simcha you're going to drink after it. I don't need a drink afterwards. The whole thing is one big l'chaim. Verstehst? You're waiting for me to come out of the other side of the tunnel and say, let's say l'chaim. The process itself is a größer l'chaim. This is not... Tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta doesn't mean there's no evil in the universe. Doesn't mean there's no corruption. It doesn't mean there's no bchira. Fakert. That's what the Tzimtzum was. Don't go back. Oh, so there was no Tzimtzum. That's not what we're saying. Then you're back to square one. So there's no Tzimtzum, there's no creation. So fine, so we don't exist. So my sadness does exist. You typhus. There was a Tzimtzum. It's real. But what makes it real? What makes it real is that it gives us the ability to really fuse the infinite and the finite. It's a relationship. If it's not real, there's no relationship. Like you said, God married himself. Fine.